Welcome, everybody. This is the solution artist, Bobby Parihar, here with a great friend of mine, Alex E. Lambert. This is an awesome honor and a pleasure to have you here, bro. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm amazing, bro. I'm here in Bondi Beach, Australia, and I'm stoked to do this interview. Thank you, Bobby, for creating that space.
Oh, you're very welcome, man. Thank you so much for coming into my life. Through our community, we're online digital entrepreneurs. Alex came in and said, "Hey, you do this numerology stuff," and he was open-minded, but you could tell that there was a bit of that skeptical there too, just to sort of play on both sides. And I really like that because that's kind of like me. Like I am searching for deeper, more meaningful truth, but you don't believe everything you see, read, or hear. And so when you find someone like this, it's a good person. You want to sort of keep them in your life. And from there, I got a chance to be featured in your podcast. I got a chance to you opened up the space for me. And then after that, what ended up happening is what I'm really excited about today is you asked me, it's like, hey, do you want to be on my book? And
yeah, I got one here too.
You got one here too. Look at that. We're book buddies. And so you created this project, and it's kind of like the story tells itself here. Alex E. Lambert and 35 other authors have created a book together by short stories of inspiration through digital nomads, entrepreneurs, young guns, millennials. Like, this is such a cool energy. I'm like 34, I'm feeling pretty old here. But the reality is that when we got a chance to be in this book together, you opened something up for me that I can now say I had my absolute premier experience of becoming a published writer. Like, it literally has an ISBN. That means you're legit. That means you actually have a barcode on your book. You're not picking it out yourself. This is on Amazon. You can get it. And I was like, oh man, Alex, you gotta come and talk to my people. You gotta come and like hang out with us for a bit. So there's so many cool things we want to talk about. I mean, I want to cover some of the basic stuff, like who the hell are you? Where did you come from? Where did you grow up? Tell us the basic details here.
Yeah, cool. Well, and just thank you again for having me. Thank you for the people who listen to. And yeah, as you said, this is a beautiful, to me, this is the embodiment of manifestation, right? Because three months ago, this was something in our minds, just all of us, the co-authors, and we're thinking about it. Just last month, boom, you have this in your hand. And, it's really from the mind to the physical, from a thought to a manifestation. So I really like, books are beautiful. I'm in love with books. So I'm so stoked to have you there. So yeah, regarding the story, man.
Right here, like I'm literally on this. Yeah. It's so cool.
That's so cool. And man, yeah. So story. I won't be too long, but basically pretty classic. I grew up in France. I'm from Paris, and I did a pretty prestigious business school. So it's all about, you have a competitive exam and you do a business school, and you're told you're the elite of the nation in terms of economics. And most of my friends, they would go to become a consultant at McKinsey or as a strategy consultant. A lot of them are bankers. And that's kind of a little bit the path we're sold. And when I was on that, I was a very, very successful kid, doing that prestigious business school. Parents are proud. And but there was something a bit missing. So I did a year in finance. I was like, I don't feel I'm expressing the full width of my humanity here. And that's when I was like, okay, I want to travel, discover the world. I went to Australia 7 years ago in a startup. So it was already more, a little bit different. And yeah, over there, I think it really opened my mind. It opened my mind in terms of what the world was in general, what success was. Maybe not that climbing the corporate ladder I was sold. And even in that startup that was really, really good, I started feeling as it grew that there was much more to life. So main thing would be 3 years ago. I had a really, really good situation, was paid 6-figure, growing startups and living at the beach, surfing, great group of friends, but didn't feel really fulfilled. And that's what pushed me more on the spiritual path. So I had already been into startups and entrepreneurship. I read the 4-Hour Workweek when I was 20. I think that was a big shift for me in trying to think different. So thank you, Tim Ferriss. Love this podcast too.
Love that book.
But yeah, it's so good, man. Actually, the book we did is very inspired by Tim Ferriss. We can talk about it after. But yeah, 3 years ago, I was also seeing that chick. And as I say in the book, like, she was a queen and I wasn't a king, and I could feel it. So that really like I was insecure, she left and she was right. And I suffered a bit from that. So I feel I was already on that path, but that accelerated the path. Then I was like, okay, I really want to be a better person. I got into personal growth. I started meditation 3 years ago. I had my first LSD experience, for example, 2 years ago. And since then I've done a bit of psychedelic. I think they're really good to open your mind. Kept traveling, read so many books, listened to so many podcasts, went to Tony Robbins, Date with Destiny, and that really changed me. So 2 years ago, when I was like, okay, good situation, but I'm not fulfilled. I need to dive in, and there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of reduction in status, especially with older generation. Also why I wrote this book is like, okay, why would that guy be, doing his company with 3 people coming to their events? And but yeah, I dived into it, and since then it's been a really beautiful spiritual journey on top of entrepreneurial. So I'd say 2 years ago I started deeper into the spiritual journey, and I felt a little bit ungrounded the past 7-8 months, especially being with people like you and the collective we're part of, and the people I'm part of. It's like, to me, spirituality now is very incarnated too, and that's why I merge that with entrepreneurship. It's not about trying to transcend all the time. It's about, okay, we as absolute consciousness, we create kind of ourselves here to have this human experience, and it's about accepting that and playing with these rules. So that's kind of where I'm at
That's
now.
awesome,
man.
Yeah. You combine and this is like you're speaking towards a brand new generation of entrepreneurs here that are spiritually conscious. And we're also still here for impact. We want to do big things. I mean, everybody knows.
Yeah.
And these are the types of people that I love to roll around with, because I know that conversation. It's like a breath of fresh air to find guys like you like really crushing it out there. So
thanks, bro. Yeah, look, man, in the spiritual community, that's something. Sometimes it's a bit divided. Things like power, money, sex. I feel can be, people shy away from it. Like they can be dangerous, but at the same time, I got back into these are energies that are neutral that I want to play with as part of that physical realm.
Yeah, it's true. Why did we come here if not to have fun, right? And definitely as we're growing through this, the model that came before you, right? It wasn't. Technology is just increasing so fast, and the speed of understanding is such a level that it doesn't contain energy like us anymore. And so you're making it safe for people to say, I don't want to be part of the system. I want to break free from that. And I'm also evolving my spiritual consciousness as well, too.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I really like you as a person, for sure. We got into our conversation. I put this E in your name, and suddenly you publish a book. Like, I'm not saying it was because of me. I'm not saying it was because of me. I'm not going to take credit for that. But I did put that E there, and we took the E out, and it looks cool, man. That literally like everything is happening for you so fast, and you found alignment now. Like, oh man. So you got to take me down this journey a little bit. Like, what happened now? You got a book now. You're doing stuff. Like,
Yeah, and look, man, it's also about how you perceive yourself as a person. Like, I do believe I attract also things thanks to the change of name we did together. But also as a person, there was something with that E. I felt I had more authority. I changed a bit my clothes, how I show up in the world. So, it's not about taking yourself too seriously, but it's a bit of a pendulum thing. So I used to be really in that secular materialistic world. And then I went down spirituality, but trying to transcend and forgetting about the physical world. And it's about having that balance. And it's the same with how you think about yourself. Like at first I was like, walking barefoot and with, I don't need all these clothes. And then I was like, well, if I want to be a leader, I need to dress nicer. I need to present nicer, to talk in a better way. And so I feel like, that is part of the pendulum. So in that, now I'm all about raising consciousness through entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And I do it through media, like podcasts, the book, as we do together. I do it through networking events a lot of masterminds that I organize. I do it also helping people entrepreneurs monetize consciousness in a way. So that can be through network marketing, through affiliate marketing, through coaching. And for me, basically what I want in 10 years to go into training in Paris. And I want people to be similar to kind of the tribes I hang out with here, which is amazing. It's like You see someone, you smile, you hug, you look at them in the eyes. And I think the world could be like this. And that's really up to us. And there's two ways we can do this. There's a very small scale. So I want to be nice to people and smile and hug, those little actions. But there's also the systems we need to change a little bit. And that's where we need the entrepreneurs and have that big scale thinking in. And that's where we need people to also use these energies of power and money to change the world. So more concretely, there's the podcast. There's been the book. Now I'm scaling my businesses too. I focus a bit on financial freedom for myself and the people I want to empower.
Wow.
And at the moment also creating a lot of big events. But, I don't have a specific plan. The way it could lead is creating whole new nations, right? I want to interview soon these guys. They're the Seasteading Institute, and they want to build nation on floating nations in international water. And that's things that are going to happen in this decade, I feel. So,
wow.
Very looking at the big picture.
That's a very interesting. I mean, I have kind of two questions here. First of all, that's like visionary stuff. Like you're really seeing when you say big picture impact, and it's interesting because there's a theme through the book that has 35 authors. Your marketing broadcast, which is a podcast that features other people. You connect at masterminds events. You're here to actually help, like turn everyone on fire and learn, light the fire within everyone. And it doesn't dull your flame at all. And that's something you'd be super proud of. And it made me kind of like ask or question or wonder. I know I remember this because we did your session, but how old are you?
I'm 29.
29. That's like this. Can you imagine what type of posture and creator that you're going to be at even 10 years from now, 39? That feeling of you've taken on the world. You're going to be a young guy. And it's just a wonderful feeling to think that you're helping us change the planet. And that's something that I mean, not everybody's going to be into the big visionary conversation, and that's okay too. But there are some of us who are like, well, I'm here to change the world. I'm here to make it a better place. I'm here to be that consciousness that drives forward. And I remember looking at your numbers too, and seeing that feeling that says, this guy wants to do something big. Otherwise he's not going to do anything at all, or it's not going to be worth it. So that's pretty cool.
And there's two things there also when you talk about how being 10 years, that's super exciting. And that's also something where I'm like, there's a quote I really like by Peter Thiel. He was a co-founder of PayPal, did that really good book, 0 to 1, so he's very entrepreneurial driven. He says, if you have a 10-year plan, why can't you do that in 6 months? And sometimes people I've had that even with, I remember 3 months ago in Bali, I was talking to a friend. I was like, well, at the moment I focus more on the business, but maybe in a year, I'll be more talking about the divine masculine, getting nicer clothes, change how I present. And then 3 days later, I was in that shop with really nice clothes like this. I was like, oh yeah, I'll get one. And a friend was like, oh, we get this crystal. And I was like, okay, why not do it now? And so many people that in 5 years, I'll start a podcast. Man, you could start a podcast now. And that's something that comes back so much in the book. Of course, it takes time and consistency. I'm not saying you can manifest all in one day, but often people put a lot of time there. But if you're quite strategic at it, I feel you can really shorten that span. And one of the ways is what you talked about, which is collaboration. I come from quite a competitive background. In school, you want to be the first in the classroom, but actually in the real world, it's not really about that. It's about being in that, that bigger pond. And, there's that quote, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
So with the podcast, the book, all of this, we have a saying in our community, which is a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's something that takes a little bit of rewiring. So I have practices actually sometimes, and I hope people won't judge me for that, but I would have moments when I see a friend smashing it and I actually don't feel that good about it. I actually feel, and that's just my smaller self being insecure. So it's in the book, I have a friend, Adelin. He's a multimillionaire doing online programs on artificial intelligence. I could remember checking how many, calls he sold the months before. I kind of hoping it's not that much because I would compare. That's completely stupid. You don't want to have that mindset. So you can rewire that. For example, if you have them in the book or the podcast, you're actually interested. So even from an ego perspective, you understand, you get that. And then I feel the more you do also practices of being genuinely happy for people, for me, it helped me to be in that collaboration mindset. And that's the highway to success.
Yeah, it's so super cool. I mean, we're tapping into something extremely spiritual, and I like to blame the observer effect. And you look at physics, and when you appreciate the success in others, it's the universe showing you that you're this far away from it yourself, and that you're actually getting closer and closer to it because you're hanging around people who are creating that every day. And that's one of the biggest, coolest things that I like about what you're doing, and basically what you have done is that you create a space, you create a light for other people. And that's why I was like, well, we have to connect, because I've got an audience. I have people who want to hear what I have to say. And when I get excited about something, I want them to know about it too. I want them to share in the excitement and the joy that I have. And I feel like this book is going to make people a better version of themselves. And through all of our stories, there's that common gold thread that comes in through each one of them. They're all so unique and they're all so different, but they all sort of speak to this one thing that's kind of like, we're going somewhere. And the world is changing, and we're the ones lighting the fires. And you could just be one of the people that's waiting there with a match that gets like inspired by some of these short stories. It reminds me of like Chicken Soup. You remember Chicken Soup for the Soul? That book?
No, but I've heard a lot about it.
It's a series. This book of short stories that can go Chicken Soup for the lover, or Chicken Soup for the parent, Chicken Soup for the child soul. And it basically helps people and this is like one Chicken Soup for the entrepreneurial soul. So it's nice to be able to know that it's nice, we're riding the new wave. So we're really getting into that new sort of the next tidal wave of what's happening, this new wave of consciousness. And
actually, two things on this. Yeah, you're pretty spot on. What I wanted to do with this, and what we wanted to do as a collective, is to give permission to people to follow their dreams. That's plain and simple. I'm so grateful to have had podcasts. Like, we don't realize, but that didn't exist 20 years ago. So it's normal that, maybe our parents don't know about it. But I can listen today to Tim Ferriss' podcast, or Tom Billiard, Joe Rogan, like all the Aubrey Marcus, all these guys, and they interview the most successful people, and there are patterns there, right? So this book is actually very inspired by Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. It's very similar. He interviews people who are already super successful. So this is more for our generation and more driven toward conscious entrepreneurs. But yeah, and that gave me the permission to do it. That gave me the strength to be like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone. That's actually these patterns, and now they're everywhere for free. It's just a matter of discovering them. So what I want when people read this book is to give them permission. Maybe your friends, they're not as supportive. Maybe your friends, they think, you're pretentious or you're crazy. And then you read that and you're like, fuck yeah, there's my tribe. It's out there, that's the world we're going towards. So I've had quite a few messages from people telling me it really encouraged them, and that was the goal. A lot of people who are already on that path also give it to their parents, because then the parents can understand. And let's say you're the parent of one of these, you'd be like, oh, my son or daughter's doing something weird, and then you read all these stories from the heart, and you're like, okay, I get it now. And so that's to give permissions. That's the one thing that you got spot on. And the other thing I want to mention is also, you talked about, and that was spot on too, where the world is going. And a lot of people, like, I think in general, it's cool to live life and be okay with uncertainty and not trying to be too safe, because that's an illusion. We're all gonna die anyway, right?
Yeah, right.
And so there's that romantic part, but then from a very rational point of view too, because I'm a very rational person too, it's like if you stay up to date, a lot of the jobs that people consider safe today, they're going to disappear. And people are going to be very disoriented because they lose their job, and they haven't learned to adapt. So the people who do that already, who do that journey, well, first, in terms of hard skill, we learn things that are going to be probably more valuable, human skills, sales, marketing, networking. These are things that are not going away. But even in terms of insurance, in a way, like your job is probably less safe than having the right network of people that I invest a lot in, and having just the right mindset. Like if you for me, if I lose my job, I go to a different country, I'm like, okay, I'm fine, I can learn the new skills. But for some people, it's going to be really, really hard. So from a rational point of view, this hasn't completely manifested. It's in the process. But yeah, when you think about it, don't not even follow your heart, just think about it rationally. It just makes sense to be more in that space of being very mindful of learning the new skills and being part of that new wave.
It's so crazy because like I study into this, and there's a scientific background to this. Like if you are literally in a good mindset, if you're in a good headspace, you're actually signaling like the positive chemical responses in your body. It changes your physiology. You start to actually promote, and that's why dogs and bees can smell fears, because people are out there constricted with their energy, afraid that someone's going to take something from them. And just to be fair, your job is going. You are going. You're not going to stay forever. So you better get used to that fact. And when you do, it frees you in a really big way. Because now I look at this and I found resumes. I found resumes of mine. And I looked at it, I laughed at it. I was like, that's so funny. I'm never going to use this ever again. I should frame this. And I remember like always like, having to get a job and being fired and job. And no wonder it didn't work out, because I was supposed to create a life of freedom. And that's one of the coolest things ever, man. So
yeah, your story is amazing, by the way.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, no, it's a very funny story for me, for sure. Yours is cool too, though. You did the world travel thing. Like you're a global citizen. That's a dream and a half.
Yeah, it's cool. I became Australian a few months ago.
Congratulations.
Also,
so you
so
just
celebrated
Australia Day.
Yeah. Actually, we did a bit different. Usually, you get the VB, which is the local beer, and the Barbie, which is the barbecue. VB and Barbie for Aussie Day,
Yeah.
But we did with a few friends. Actually, we did ice baths and more like a self-care day. That was super fun. Awesome. High energy too.
Yeah, you're all into that kind of stuff, and it's nice to have that. But it's a science, and really, we're opening ourselves up to that. And so, yeah, that's so cool. We could get lost on that topic for sure, man.
Yeah.
So this book, I mean, like, this is a beginning point. This is like a new shift into a new version of you, and you're like taking it big. So I'm excited for people to see this, because, this is it. You can feel that this is the beginning stages of something very powerful that you're here to do on this planet. And I remember telling that to you in private, and I'm not afraid to say that to my audience, because, we really have to band together, especially, that it becomes like we're jobs being removed and things are kind of changing. We see each other online, and we've never met each other in person, and yet we're already close.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's so crazy. We connect at a completely different level of vibration, and I'd like to think numerology really tied us together. But yeah, man, that's really cool. So any advice to people out there? Like, who do you talk to? Do you talk to people who are struggling still and they need to get out and they find something? Or you support beam for the person who's already become an entrepreneur, sort of everywhere in between?
Yeah, it has changed, actually. I used to be more talking to, let's say, a corporate person that would want to start meditation. And for me, as I grew also, I like to surround myself with like-minded people. So now the people I talk to are probably already more empowered, So people I talk to, like, usually they already meditate every day. They already eat super healthy, take care of their body. They already, they already do all these things, have these practices. And so my mission went a bit from awakening people in what you could call that matrix to actually changing the world, collaborating with people who are already at that level.
Yeah, that's true. So you got
I think go.
You got some more books in you?
Maybe. I think the thing is, like, and I'm really passionate also about people who do the work of promoting, for example, meditation in the corporate world. Was just less for me, as I told you, because I like to be surrounded with even like people that are better than me. And I don't want to be too much on that scale thing, but at least in that in that part, there's a bit of a spiritual ego trap there. Yeah. So, but I think we need all of it. What works with people, and sometimes it's good to have, like, it's just a marketing thing too. Is you wanna niche down, especially I'm still starting, bro. So it's been a bit of a struggle actually for me to find exactly my niche, because I'm interested in so many things. but so for example, the next book, I will take a little bit of time and think about what is one thing I really want to talk about. And because at the moment I'm really passionate about conscious business and financial freedom. I'm really passionate about personal growth in general. I'm very passionate about topics like the divine masculine. I think is very needed. And I'm very passionate about networking and collaborations. And there are things around there where I'm like, okay, if I'm going to write a book on it, I will dive a bit deeper. But yeah, it's beautiful to start expressing yourself. We live in a society where creativity is a bit repressed, especially at school. Like for me, until maybe 3 years ago, I didn't think I was creative at all. And for that chick I talked about, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn the saxophone because it was cool. And she liked the saxophone. And since then, I started being more and more expressing my creativity, whether it's through writing, whether it's doing an interview with you, whether it's through music. I think I'll get into spoken words at some point because I think that's super cool. And yeah, I never thought of myself as a creative person because that's really undervalued. So yeah, overall, I can't remember exactly what I talked about this, but yeah, I encourage also people to mix, like to add a bit of creative practice to for them. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I guess where your message is right now, it's taken into a more of a spiritual context or more of an inner growth, a spiritual growth. You know, when I look at moves like this and I kind of step back, I see you're growing your container to be able to get to the rise to the next level of your own existence. You know, to the because you're on the journey to global visionary, and the type of things you say for what the type of stuff you're doing, it's like you're expanding an energy force that is going to change a lot of people, really be that light bearer or that horizon, that the pioneer in that energy, right?
Yeah, and to obviously it's a very fascinating journey for me, but to make it less about me also, I feel at the moment we're a moment in history when basically we really need a conscious shift, and it's definitely happening. You can have all these hints about, can look at meditation, use of psychedelics, books. There's a conscious shift, like there's no question about that. But there's also a lot of threats, right? And both are accelerating. So what I really want is to get that conscious shift accelerated. And as you said, that's expanding the way we expand it through the books, through these interviews, events. Like for me, 7 months ago, going to Bali and gazing at beautiful people and hugging them and celebrating with them, praying for love all together, we were like, why isn't the world like this? It's just up to us. Like, it's really up to us. It's ridiculous. And it's spreading. But so we're at that moment in history that's very important when, so this new decade, we enter a new decade. At the end of this decade, we could be in a world that's pretty close to what we could compare to heaven on earth, which is already my world, and you attract your world, right? It's like the amazing, loving communities I'm part of and being very fulfilled. But it could be the whole world could be like this, or I'm very interested in AI, a bit in technology, in Kurzweil's exponential growth of technology. And at the moment, we're also creating the seed of things that will become very powerful, especially AI. I don't know exactly how it will unfold, but just us as humans will evolve through technology, embedding that, and the world's going to change. And the point here is, at the moment, we're programming that technology with a certain level of consciousness. If we program technology to be as benevolent with the world as we are benevolent with animals or with the planet at the moment, for example, well, that's not going to be good for us, right? And we're going to something very dystopian. So yeah, I think, people who help with technology, it's great, makes people's life better. But I feel like the one thing that's the most important right now is to increase the consciousness of the planet, because that's going to infuse everything we do.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy because you don't notice it until you look for it. And when you become that, the first thing you realize is nothing else is like that. And then like attracts like, and you start expanding your consciousness. And next thing you know, we're in this rising pot of everyone getting bigger and better. And there's billions of people on the planet still starving. There's billions of people who don't have internet access. and like there's the end of days, end of times, like biblical proportionate events happening in the globe for the last like since I was born. There's always been, and yet on the other side, we're creating this heaven on earth, and we're living on this different level of vibration. And I remember being in that place, you know, feeling like the darkness was taking me, and now getting to a place where I'm helping other people who feel like they're in the dark, and you know we're moving our all of our energy back up together. And you know it's a pleasure to be on this ride with you, man, because I know this is a rare thing. You can't have this conversation with just anybody and you know be like this powerful. So I appreciate you so much for taking time today.
Yeah, thanks. And I've interviewed you in my podcast, so I already know you're completely aligned with that, and that's why we have this chat today.
It's so crazy, right? Because on one side there's AI technology, like automation, computer technology, and the other side is this spiritual sort of like energetic feel, and we're really binding the two together, having like that. And I like to think that you know psychedelic experiences blast the doors open, and then you can close them again. You have a different perspective of the planet and a sense of unity and wholeness within you. That you know it's one of those things I would absolutely recommend. That a person has an experience like that, you know, whether it's assisted or not.
And it's funny because I feel with technology, we're recreating what already exists with higher level of consciousness. So it's interesting. But yeah, I'm
you know, where he says that this may actually be a simulation that we're living.
Probably. I mean, to me, it's like, you know, everything comes from consciousness. So it's not like it's real or it's not real. It's just, it comes from consciousness. Like this whole world comes from consciousness. And what we see as material, they're actually energy and we don't see it, but that's what it is. And I'm sure if enough people understand it, we'll start seeing it more and more. A lot of people see the world that way. So yeah, I think we'll become gods and recreate creations. And because in the end, even at this stage, we just forget that we are the absolute and consciousness incarnated here, and we forget to play the game a bit like you play video game. So to me, it's this kind of, it's a virtual reality, at least the world you see around you, for sure.
And then we've created digital realities on top of that, like the ego's brain to think, let's create the internet, let's create digital space, and to actually create AI from like. We're learning coding right now of all things for our websites and stuff. And it's like you're programming an algorithm of logic into like a non-sentient being. So I think we'll see the day. I think we will see the day where we create sentience and we actually create like consciousness, digital or virtual, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and I think we'll recreate, like we'll democratize something that's already accessible for some people. Like some people, they can transpose their consciousness, somewhere. As it can happen in your psychedelic experience. You'll be in someone else's head, or you'll be like feeling in the state of consciousness of your dog, and you're communicating with it. But it's not very controlled. I feel in like, I don't know if it's in 20 years or 100 years, but you'll be like, hey, do you want to feel like Bobby? And you'll be in that level of consciousness, and everything you see and your thoughts are completely different. Your vision of the world is completely different. And that'd be super fun. But my point is, I think this is already accessible, but as we recreate it through technology, it will become more and more mainstream in a way. Like, it's like, for example, I got this recently. It's called, it's a little quantum sensor, and it sends microcurrent. And I'm joking because I live with an energy healer and Reiki practitioner, and I'm like, this is you in a box, because it will pick up on, your small intestine needs that frequency, and then deliver the frequency. The same as sometimes I go to, let's say, a shamanic body worker, and they'll be like, oh, you have a pain in your left shoulder. Yeah, how do you know? And then they'll send energy. And to people, it's bullshit. But then when you have the technology, you're like, oh, okay, so then everyone starts using it. So I feel like technology can bridge that gap between thinking spirituality is woo and making it an everyday thing. But then when it becomes an everyday thing, we'll have new things, and we'll forget that we used to think it was completely crazy.
Yeah, that's right. People used to drive on horses, right? So what next?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's cool to
And
think like this type of conversation takes a level of mind that has to disconnect from its front to front vibration of perspective. You look at it from the bird's eye view of where we've come and also where we're going to go. So again, just sort of really rings true to be having quite a visionary conversation. So I really appreciate doing that. I'll be putting links to the book, so you guys definitely got to get a copy of this. It'll change your life and just really be a part of a digital community of people across the world that all came together and was a part of this project. You honored me and blessed me with a space on there, man. I appreciate you so much for creating that. It's just it's a wonderful thing. Like I get it. I look really cool at parties now, family parties. Look, guys, look, I'm here. I'm in here. And it's a wonderful way to start because I know I've got books in me. I know I'm going to write them. I know that I've got messages through podcasts. I know that I have programs and things and coachings and all types of stuff to help people in all different places. And, it always makes you wonder, what do you focus on? And so it would be nice to know, like, what are you focusing on right now? Like, is there a thing that's sort of driving you that you need to handle in 2020?
For me, 2020 is about empowerment through business of conscious entrepreneurs. So let's say the two main things I focus on is events, especially here in Sydney, but also a bit in Bali. Create events where conscious entrepreneurs can collaborate, help each other out, because as we mentioned, collaboration is the key there. And I also have two network marketing businesses. I do a little bit of affiliate, but with this, I do it for myself, but also for other people. Like this book is called Escape 9-5, Do What You Love and Make an Impact. I know a lot of people, they're in a job, they're not fulfilled, and doesn't fulfill them. And I want them, and they have gifts. They have amazing gifts to give to the world. So I want them to get a bit out of that machine and focus on being of service. There's a big discrepancy at the moment of how much you're in service to the world and how much you earn. So that's what I said at the beginning of the mastermind of conscious entrepreneurs. I'm like, guys, I want all of you to be millionaires, to be able to spread through media, to donate to the charities you want, to be comfortable. And there's a lot of rewiring to do around that. Like most people, they think it's cool if you get that burger joint chain and you expand in a whole country. It's like everyone's like, yeah, congrats, you're a great entrepreneur, you do a good job. But if you do it through meditation, people are going to be like, oh, you shouldn't charge for meditation if you do what you love. I think that's complete bullshit, right? Because you can see on a global scale what's wrong with that.
Yeah, right? On one side, you're putting burgers into the planet, and then the other side, you're actually putting consciousness into the planet.
Yeah. And so it's okay to make money if you do something that's less ethical. But if, it's like, it doesn't make sense. But I used to think like this. I used that TED talk by the guy who works in charities, and it was all about like why the top people in charity is normal that they paid well. And that's normal to do marketing campaigns when you run a charity. So yeah, focus at the moment is on more financial freedom. Also a bit for me, because I want to scale my impact through this. When you can get a bigger team, you can get more exposure on social media, you can empower others more easily. And also, so I have a few people in my network marketing businesses that I want to really help. Some still have their job and I want to help them quit. That's the main focus at the moment. Then I'll see, I might go a bit more into things around, as I told you, divine masculine, spirituality. Like I feel in my life is going to evolve and all tied to that one, raising consciousness and being your best self in a way, but maybe with different angles.
That's awesome, man. Well, you got a lot of big stuff you're going to take care of. I know in the next, however long, how it's going to take you. The focus for this year, if you want my 2 cents to throw into the numerological understanding insight, it's about setting up the infrastructure of your wealth. So if you're fortifying your business, you're fortifying your wealth, you're creating a stronghold of value or income. This is the platform to which you build your castle and you build your legacy. So I'd say that.
Yeah, I mean, man, you're spot on. And I know this interview is more for the people who follow you than for you, because just with my numbers, you can see everything through me anyway. So you just like, we talked about tapping into you're already kind of tapping into my consciousness doing that. By the way, anyone who listens, do a session with Bobby. I was like, I give you a few numbers and a name and you're like, you talk about all my challenges in my life. And I was like, what the fuck? So that was very interesting.
And
So
I
yeah,
like to think of that.
that's exactly that. Having that structure and foundation. Like there's been a lot of amazing things happening to me in the past year. They've been very like doing this and that, and so I want to have really that solid foundation. I still have that, but just a bit more structure. It's exactly that. Thanks for putting words, like tapping into my consciousness through the numbers and actually putting it into nice words, Bobby.
It's a crazy language. It's really cool how accurate and powerful it can give us value and meaning. And that's one of the coolest things about you. You're taking spirituality and technology and really creating that hybrid inside of what you speak for in your life. The same thing that numerology does is it really gives you a language, a code to the psychology of all of the different challenges, things you got going on, and makes me feel more and more that we're playing out like a mathematical equation, and this is just the chaos of the calculator. But it's really cool to have that, and a blessing to have you on my path, man. So what advice?
Same, bro.
I want to tie this in, and I want to leave our audience with a little bit of advice that you give. Most of the people who are listening here are already entrepreneurs. They have this. Most of them are inside of our community, and they'll see us, and they're their own looking for their own value, their own voice and wealth. Because these are all people who need to read this book. Like if you take 36 people and like learn all about their stories, and it's one of the most powerful things I do in a mastermind. What are you going to do mastermind about? Everybody takes 5 minutes and introduces themselves and tells us why they're here and what their story is. And so to know that strengthens the whole tribe. So you guys as a community, you need to read this book. But what advice would you give to these people who are like trying to quit their job and they've got kids or whatever it is, watching this and need a little bit of inspiration?
Yeah, look, first on that book, definitely it's done in a very vulnerable way. So there are a lot of good tips inside the books. So if you read the books, it will work rationally, but it will work for your emotion and heart too. So you will have good tips. It can be like, start a morning routine, meditate, listen to podcasts, all these things. But it will also strengthen really that on that more deeper level, because we share from a very vulnerable point. We talk about our struggles, the fears, the lack of self-love that limited us, our fears around money, all these things. And we go very vulnerable. We're not about like, hey, as it is sometimes in the coaching personal growth world, being like, it's a tough balance between being in the law of attraction and wanting to be now who you are not yet, but incarnating that person to become that person, which works really well and encourage people to do, but still being open and vulnerable and not always being like, I'm smashing it, there's no problem. So we share from that place, which I think is really good. So definitely getting that book will give you the tools, but also the connection, the feeling of belonging that will give you the strength to get started. One of the main advice from this book is start now. Start before you're ready. That's something Marie Forleo talks a lot about too. Like, there's never going to be the right moment. And look, I'm single. I don't have kids. I build my life on purpose, at least at the moment. So I don't have too many responsibilities that hold me back. So I can't give, if you're a mom with 3 kids, like, I'm not telling you quit your job and go to Bali. It's like, I don't know, like, what's better for you. But overall, I think people are leaning way too much towards certainty and safety. And it's cliche, but when people die, they often regret the things they haven't done, not the thing that they tried. So that's the advice that comes back the most in the book is start before you're ready, like kind of go for it. It's like you have your own life. You don't want to regret it. We're all going to die. Like as Steve Jobs said, we're all naked, we're all going to die. So just do your best, do your best and do it from not like try to not be in fear too much. I'm not saying go completely crazy and don't take responsibilities, but just see how you can enjoy life and go for it and avoid the fear. To do that, so you can read the book, you can hang out with the right environment. So right environment for entrepreneurs, that's critical, and creating collaborations, creating an ecosystem where you thrive with others. So for example, if you become super famous, let's say, and you start smashing it, you're in my book, that's going to benefit me, right? Same with the podcast. Like if I become a super rock star, I know it's also thanks to the new name you gave me. And so we all, like, in the end, we all one, and we recreate that, because in this physical world, we forget it. We create separation, we create competition. So if you can, create systems like this, network marketing is great for that too, because you build in systems where you all working together and rewarded for it. So the two main thing would be start before you're ready, like go for it, and rely on other people. The best leaders are also great followers. So collaborate, create an ecosystem where it's a big win-win, because we're in a world of abundance, and that's your fast track to being successful.
That's amazing, man. It's like you're mentoring and you're coaching leaders. Like you're going to inspire massive change, because the people you talk to are going to create and inspire massive change in their own lives. But wow, man, pleasure to have that.
There's different ways to have a huge impact. For example, if you go and teach in meditation in school, like, you have a huge impact. You have people who grow up, but another one's like more having a waterfall effect. So if you take the people who took transcendental meditation, pretty famous in the past like 30, 40 years, they were training mainly CEOs. But then if a CEO loves meditation, maybe, the 10,000 people in the organization will have meditation programs. So I find that there's a need for, apps like Headspace that make it available to the masses, but also, for me, what worked better was focusing on these leaders, because then, like, people have no idea how much impact you can have. Mm-hmm. You are the center of a huge network. I have through my posts, I got hundreds of people doing my programs. But even when I do a post, I have sometimes people tell me, it changes their mind. And if I have 1,000 people, okay, the best way is if I just train 10 people to meditate this year, and they become really convinced, and they train 10 people each, you do this during 8-9 years, that's like 1 billion people, mm-hmm. because it's that network effect, right? So we're super powerful. We're just one in billions, but we're also the center of a network, and that's how, and we're all connected. So that's why I find working with other conscious leaders is a way to maximize impact.
Wow. I appreciate you, man. It's a blessing to call you brother, and it's a blessing to have you in my life, bro. Yeah, this was
Thanks,
awesome.
Bro.
Cool.
What's your best advice for people, for entrepreneurs?
The best advice I have for entrepreneurs is get good at knowing your own story. And if I were to say to be successful, people buy you. They don't buy a business. They don't buy a product. They want you and what you speak for. And that's why I'm like, oh, you're gonna write a book about all the cool things you promote, or are you gonna do events? I want to be a part of that, because I like what you have to share with the world and offer. And a lot of people are going to agree with that as well too. And that's why I think you've done it successfully. But for people who are like, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to sell, talk about what you don't know about. Talk about all the cool things you are. Share you at an authentic level is much more of a profit than a salesy technique of learn how to say you're better, more profitable being who you are.
That's so true, bro. And look, here you're doing an interview. I want to be, super high vibe, and I'm really empowered. But sometimes I wake up and I feel like a big failure, and I feel lonely, and I feel scared, and more in my smaller self. And that's fine. I don't beat myself up. Same listening to Tim Ferriss talk about it. The most successful people, they wake up, they feel they're a failure, or they're lonely. It's cool. So it's like on one hand, I like to show myself as empowered, as who I want to be. Just want to be vulnerable with people. I have done down moments, and it's just about I know I have a few practices to overcome that, and also I accept it. Just that's fine. That's being a human and having ups and downs, and that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's nice to see that, because a lot of people think, oh, we're invincible on top of the world. No, we just I've been down there a lot, so I know that back out again, and it's not the end of the world.
And success is tricky. Sometimes I go and see someone, and he's been just living in Bali and giving sun healing and live at people's places, and a bit like a hobo, but I'm like, well, that guy's so free, you know. I'm like, especially when I do psychedelics journey, sometimes I'm like, well, why don't you just live like that? And there's no better, you know, there's no better way. I think that's an amazing way to live life. And I get a lot to learn from these people who society doesn't describe as super successful. But when I see them and they have little and they're so happy, I'm like, isn't that more successful than just appreciating having little, being super happy, and, you know, looking at a flower that makes you super happy? That might be more successful than making billions of dollars. So, you know, I'm still about, I thought about it. I'm still about changing the world, creating the world, but that's just my path. But it's not better or worse than more simple path.
Well, you know, this is gonna happen again, and I'd like to invite you back again. We'll connect at another time. I want to get into this divine masculine stuff. There's a deeper topic. You know, we're growing through, and I know I'm just gonna leave this as a teaser because I've got to get running. But you know, this transition and transcendence of what male energy, and even women who have that in them, or even just as a spokesman of it, we can no longer act in our caveman brain. And I'm super excited to take that up with you on our next conversation. I know that'll take us another hour for sure.
Yeah, I actually did my most recent podcast is with a friend called Kevin Oroz that I met in Bali, and he's so knowledgeable on this, talks about the 4 archetypes by Carl Jung. And that podcast was amazing. So I put my podcast on alexelember.com. It's my website. And yeah, definitely encourage people to listen to that one. It's very needed too. So that's a fascinating topic. And I had a few people when I came back to Australia a month ago and presented the book at an event. Yeah, I had a few people saying, yeah, it looks like you were a boy a few months ago and you came back as a man, which is exactly was intentional, but exactly how I felt too.
Well, I'm glad I got a chance to play a part in that, because I was going to say that too.
Yeah.
Man, this experience that you've gone through has changed you. And, you know, I'd like to think it all started with a little E in your name.
Yeah, man. That made me level up, you know.
But that really was like the validating point for me. Yeah, to see that you come into that.
Yeah.
Anyways, brother, it was a pleasure to connect with you today. I'm going to put links everywhere for this. So by the time you guys are seeing this, you know, wherever it is that you're seeing this, there's going to be ways to connect with Alex. You got to get the book. You can definitely reach out to me and have a conversation. If you've loved what you've heard today and you want to know more, I would definitely suggest that you do, because we're riding the new wave, and this is how we escape the 9 to 5. So this is a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And I appreciate you, man, for everything that you are.
Thank you. And we also aligned the name of the book. So the new wave is like,
don't remind me.
It's that wave.
It's the
movement, it's the opportunity, but that's also the vibration, right? And so we made sure the name has a good numerology and is really aligned.
Piece by piece, the whole thing together, it looked really good. So it's a numerologically aligned book as well. And that was a fun experience for sure. Don't do that to me again. every minute is like, what about this? What about this one? What about this one? I'm like, oh my God, I need my app like right now. But I thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Right, guys, great rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us. Alex, I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you to the listeners.